Hello there and welcome back to the channel. I just wanted to hop on here quickly and showcase a simple build that I did, which cleverly uses the plentiful IN7 Symbolic Nixie tube to make something a little more interesting. These tubes are plentiful because most people just want number Nixie tubes for clocks and other projects that require numeric digits. However, with some clever rearrangement of one of the symbols, we can eke out the word make from these tubes, and as I facilitate a maker space, I felt it fitting that this word could be wrangled out of some old tubes meant for other purposes. The outer construction of the box was achieved via laser cut acrylic. I used Inkscape to render my designs and make way for all the components. The control circuitry of the box was made via Eagle PCB software for the design, and the toner transfer method was used for application. The toner transfer method is something I'm trying to perfect with the tools I have on hand, so ultimately this board's traces weren't as reliable as I would have hoped, but a lot of them turned out fine. I made do with this board, not wanting to make another run at it, and I bridged where it was required with a little wire and solder. The circuit uses a 7805 voltage regulator that steps down 12 volts DC to 5 volts DC. This powers a 555 timer in A-stable mode, which can pulse according to the value of a potentiometer, which is externally adjustable on the box. The pulse determines the speed of the oscillation of the two Nixie sets. The first path of the output of the 555 goes straight to the base of an MPSA 43 NPN high voltage transistor through a 15K ohm resistor, while a second path is routed to a 7404 NOT gate, which inverts the 555, and then that output goes through a 15K resistor to the base of a second MPSA 43 transistor. In this common emitter configuration, when either transistor is on, it completes the path from collector to emitter, thus sending the high voltage to ground and thus illuminating a set of Nixies. The Nixie tube has a striking voltage of 170 volts DC and a maintained voltage of 150 volts. So I utilized one of these little DC step-up converters that the whole box could be run on 12 volts DC power supply, as that is the supply voltage this module requires. The current draw of the Nixies was important to consider, given that I am sending 4 of them to ground through a single transistor, and so the Nixie anode resistor had to be calculated to assure the current per segment was nominal per the datasheet at 2.5 milliamps. As the collective current of 4 Nixies on one board was measured at 10 milliamps, that would mean each respective Nixie is drawing 2.5 milliamps. This was achieved via a 15K anode resistor, and as the MPSA 43 transistor can sink 200 milliamps at its collector, we are well in spec for safe and continuous operation. Ultimately, this ended up a gift for a dear friend, so I decided to put a quote on it that is fitting to our shared values. On the whole, the project was fun, but there was an issue with the tubes continuing to break under the slightest shearing forces from the etched PCB I made. I had to drill the socket holes quite large as to give them wiggle room and not to bend the pins to fit the socket holes, as was my first attempt. They are of such a vintage and a certain build quality that the glass cracks and goes to vacuum if you sneeze at it wrongly. Fortunately, as mentioned, they're the cheapest and most plentiful of Nixie tube I have found yet. The more I look at the object out of context, it almost rings of a piece of modern art, and I kind of dig that. I could easily see it next to some 20th century piece of art that incorporates neon tubes and tube televisions and other such art as existed from the time. Anyways, thank you for watching this short video about a pretty cool build, and I hope you enjoyed it.